It's so wonderful to be here with you, Dr. Sangeeta Sahi. I am always honored, touched, and just feel like I'm with a sister when I'm with you. And, we've been able to have these wonderful discussions, and we just decided to hop on and start recording this because we knew when we have a conversation, interesting things happen. And you just brought something up. So I want to ask you about this, which is in this world of AI and the expansion of technology helping humans, let's talk about, and I want to hear your point of view of the spiritual technologies. What comes up for you when I ask you about that or use that word?
Kathleen, before we jump into that, I want to absolutely show my appreciation for our time together and also the appreciation of what emerges from our time together in such a kind, loving, and graceful way. So I thank you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Spiritual
see.
technologies, they are older, way, way older than any of our universes, any of our multiverses, they're as old as existence itself. And I think that they, for us as human beings living in, especially today's times, and by today's times, I also mean like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, I think spiritual technology was a tool for our own personal development. So there, it was always introduced like that. And you, more than most people, understand that when you read and go into some of the more ancient and indigenous knowledge systems, we're talking about deep understanding and realization. And when we talk about that, it's in layers. It's almost like encoded, but the layers will not really reveal themselves until the individual who is studying them is actually spiritually evolved and developed enough to be able to become connected with that knowledge. So the knowledge, that was one of the things that was always said about the Library of Alexandria.
Mm.
It was destroyed because there was so much incredibly powerful knowledge and technology in there that people at that time just were not ready to apply and use in a mature and in a loving and in a wise, compassionate way. And because the powers that be felt that it would be misused, the library was destroyed. And I believe, I'm sure you know about Nalanda University, that was set up by the Buddhist monks post Buddha's passing. And there again was such incredible wisdom. And I've actually visited those sites. And my God, the energy field at Nalanda is something else. But again, that wisdom was there. So, and the university itself, the structure of the teachings was very systematic. Got
Hmm.
to, the students got to experience many things, but it wasn't about time. It wasn't about how long it takes. It was more about immersion. And at that time, Kathleen, education and in these places was absolutely free.
Free.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Something popped when you were describing that inner evolutionary process. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And my first image was, yeah, the teacher could be sitting on the ground near the woods, and the teacher could be a tree or a bird. It's not always a person because when we are ready, we have the realization, we have the aha, we connect our life experience and categories of information and learning of like, oh, that with my childhood experience, my love of trees, with the, oh, and now I understand that person. Oh, now I understand my experience of it more. Oh, I'm learning. Okay, I'll do it differently next time. So, like in the silence of sitting on the ground, oh, all these things come together. And that's what I feel like is some of the benefits of meditation. And or what I really wanted to get to is like, hello, as ancient as the technologies are, our major technology is Mama Earth, grounding, nature. Like you and I always come back to nature.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is not only the great healer, but the catalyst for our own inner evolution.
That's exactly it, because all these places of high teaching, they're all in the most absolutely isolated, natural settings. And that was the reason, because it wasn't about learning, it was also about contemplation, contemplation and meditation and integration, digesting what you've learned. Um,
Well, and a natural, I'll say the word detoxification, but it's actually a natural unraveling.
mhm,
Or like in cranial sacral, some people may know this term if they've ever had cranial sacral, it's called unwinding. So like I like the idea of unwinding more than detoxification, because when we use that word, it makes what's leaving us or what's clearing that's it was somehow bad or
mhm.
toxic. So a lot of times people talk about they use that word toxic a lot, and I don't cringe, but it's sort of like, well, could we have a, gentler approach to this? Because then that's setting up good, bad, right? Versus perhaps an unwinding or releases and integration of things that are ready to leave to make space for ahas and connections and healing and wisdom.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And ultimately, I think if we just keep one thing in front of us all the time, and that's wholeness. So
Mm.
there's no detoxification, actually. There's no leaving. It's just that our focus changes to something else.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Right. And that helps us experience our wholeness, ideally.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
instead of constantly focusing on one particular thing and obsessing about it, we can
Yes.
actually shift our focus and experience something else.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think, and one of the things that I love chatting with you especially is because if we bring this concept, because for me astrology is much more about daily life, not just application, but understanding ourselves more in the context of our
Right.
present daily lives. So, say we take again the concept of the solar eclipse coming up, because here we are, we're in this session recording it on the 19th of September. And Kathleen, you'll please share when is the exact date of the solar eclipse, and how kind of would it, maybe what influence, how would it influence us individually?
Oh, well, I love to talk about this. It's ironic because I actually resisted this, but I'm like, so many people share the opposite advice of what I give. And I'm like, okay, I got to go there and give this, which is embedded within all most ancient traditions. It doesn't matter which one you look at. When you really look at the lunar calendars and other practices, they all come down to on eclipse days, these are potentials of portals to deepen our spiritual capacity and to actually, I call it reversing karmas, but it's actually roasting the seeds of karma on these days. And so some people get really excited when they hear that, the whole idea of reversing karmas, because around eclipses, it's opposite day, you could say. It's not about setting an intention that you're looking to create something in the world. It's not like, I will write a book. No, it's not about worldliness, making money, making babies, relationships, impact. None of that is what that day is about. It's the opposite. It's turning inward. And when you decide to on Sunday, September 21st, and in Australia, New Zealand, a little bit into Southeast Asia, it's Monday morning, the 22nd. And that's more important in some ways because the eclipse will be shadowing pretty much all of New Zealand and mostly the southern tip of Southern Island. So when an eclipse shadows the land, it affects the people under it a little more. And if you've got planets in the constellations where those eclipses are lining up, you will personally feel a rising of a new integration, usually a family of origin. Uh, uh, you don't look for a new perspective on the solar eclipse day, but leading up to it and after it, you're being given a lesson of like, there's a way to look at my family lineage differently and to come to softening around beliefs that we maybe have about that each individual might have about their parents or their grandparents or a hidden story. And when we look at our own life, we can actually see how we're acting patterns out that are sometimes genetic and have compassion on ourselves and go, I was judging these choices. I know I have a choice. I'm living in a different time and coming full circle to have full compassion for those in our family and those around us. And it ends up building bridges. So, on a personal level, on a psychological level, there's a lot of learning, but we don't look for an aha on an eclipse. If you look at many traditions, they're like, hey, go to, it's some kind of high holiday or go to the temple on eclipse days because the practices themselves are trying to say, yeah, don't go to the bar, don't be making babies, let's do spiritual stuff. And when you choose to do practices on the solar eclipse day, you actually, I love the sound effects, literally build discipline, spiritual discipline. So when you say yes to sitting on the mat and going for a gentle walk, or spending time in nature, or saying no to a food that maybe alters your consciousness, be it alcohol or coffee or eating too much of sugar, right? So the big twist is you could choose one food that you're trying to not eat and just use everything in your being to not eat that thing. But you can set yourself up for success by not having it in the house 3 days before, and then notice the desire 2 days before, notice the desire the day before. But you're going to steel yourself just to not do that one thing on that day. And then for 6 months, super easy not to do that thing.
Why? What's the mechanism behind that? Because I do understand that the eclipse would definitely create a more clarity and a more aware consciousness. But what is the part that
Actually the opposite? It's not more clarity. It's a portal where, because Rahu and Ketu, what do? They swallow the sun, they swallow the moon. They're
right?
actually covering up consciousness and unconscious mind. So we actually don't listen to, that's the illusion. Illusion is happening stronger. Maya, illusion is stronger, and desire is stronger. So that's why it's like, don't listen to that thing. People are like, oh, I'm going to change the world and do this thing around lunar eclipses. Often they're like really excited and get some great idea. I'm like, maybe just wait a couple days, sort of like something takes them over. Okay. So it's the opposite of like, my favorite bumper sticker is don't believe everything you think. So around eclipses, don't believe everything you think. It's not a clarity. It's actually not this, not this.
Okay.
That's part of that unwinding and letting go, going, I'm just going to let that go for right now. I'm going to just try and focus on maybe it's us using the technologies to go, okay, when I choose to not do that thing. And the reason is because it's an alchemical window. It's said in the Buddhist and the Hindu traditions, and I think a few others, that what we do on eclipse days counts 10,000 fold karmically.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
because it is more difficult to sometimes resist the tug. So when we resist the tug, be it eat sugar, not meditate, swear, gossip, the tug to go there, like, when you say to somebody, just don't talk about the relationship on that day, then all of a sudden you're just like, not going to talk, you're not going to talk, and then poof, something comes out of your mouth, right? Like it's like classic, right? I've done it. Like, oh, I'm not going to bring that topic up, poof, right? So, and so that's what it is because it's a portal, because it's so difficult to reverse things, that when you say no to something, or when you welcome your spiritual practice on those days, you actually are creating 10,000 fold positive karma, neutrality, because the real goal is equanimity, like you brought up before we started recording. That's the real goal, is not to be focused on good or bad or positive karma or whatever. It's actually equanimity. So,
Well, we have, I mean, I happen to be in India right now. And it's interesting that I'm here at this particular period because we've had the month of Savan, which was in July and partly August, which was the Lord Shiva's time.
yeah.
And Shiva represents cosmic consciousness of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went directly into the Shrad period, which is the ancestors, where
Yes.
you focus on the rituals and the rituals are just a way for us, our physical mind and body, to attune into the ancestors, to be able to clear our karmas with them, and also to be able to give gratitude and appreciation for what they have done before for us, in order for us to have reached this level of
And to
existence.
satiate. That's what Tarpana is for. That's why in Shrad, Tarpana is the practice, because it's about showing gratitude to the many levels, gods, sages, lineage, genetic lineage. And to throw in just a little thing that Dr. Svoboda spoke about many times, is in Tarpana, at the genetic level, if, and what I'm going to say here might be a reach for some people, but if a spirit is not, if someone's still wandering, when we do Tarpana, it satiates the energy. And part of the reason we do this is because our spiritual practice is any energy that's gone before us genetically, if there is unrest, where are they going to try and act in the world? It's actually through us. Genetically, we're most similar. So 7 generations of spirits, as it were, literally can act through us. And when you do a tarpana, just a water practice, you're just pouring water over the hand, pouring it over here. You can do it in 30 seconds. It used to be done daily, right? I go through periods where I do it daily, and then 3 over here. And basically, it's the simplest practice, but when it's done, things aren't tugging. Like, I have no desire for bread. Like my lineage, I got, German lineage. So like bread, cheese, milk, like that genetically calls out. When I do Tarpana, quiet. I don't feel tugs. It's very clear. And so we can feel a little more of who we are. So that's why the shot is important. So then what were you going to say? Thank you for letting me interrupt.
I was going to say exactly that, but I was also going to say that after that comes the next part, which is Navratra, which is the 9 days of the goddess and all the different aspects of the goddess. So you've got the Shiva, the cosmic, and then you've got the ancestors, and then you've got the goddesses, and then you come into Dussehra, which is actually Dussehra, and then Diwali, which is the Festival of Lights, which is when you've been through this whole complex process of the solar system and the universe and cosmos, and then you come right up into the light. And you're like, I look at this and I think how incredible that the wisdom teachers, the sages, the rishis, the maharishis, they set up these protocols. And what depth of understanding they had, not just about the cosmos and the universe and solar systems, but about the human psyche itself and what we would need
Right.
to bridge that, because ultimately the light represents a newer, more lighter version of ourselves and our lives. So in order to get there, we have to go through the whole gamut of the cosmos.
Yes, exactly. It's so beautiful. It really is. And that's on the precipice of preparation for winter, the darker time. So we go into the light, right? And I do think that's where we have similarity, even though the dates aren't exact,
Mm-hmm.
right? Diwali isn't Christmas, but that's why Jesus's birth is basically solstice, because in Europe, that was the time of dark, and the religions of the time, most of them were basically doing practices of light in the middle of the dark season, right? And that's solstice. So that's why we got Christmas where we got it, everybody. It was actually, another religion's practice, other practices of welcoming the light in the dark season. That's why his birth is practiced there.
But there's another part to this, which
Tell me.
brings us back to spiritual technology. If you
Yeah.
go into any, especially Buddhist meditative practice, I remember I made a wonderful pilgrimage, and it was a pilgrimage to the monasteries in Ladakh, which
Mm.
is in at the foothills,
I have a
actually part
good
of the
friend who's there
Himalayas.
right now. Oh my goodness.
And we were climbing these monasteries, because the monastery is on very, very high hilltops,
You're
but
starting at
this,
10,000 feet,
yeah,
right? And then you're going up. Yeah.
exactly. So, and then when you get into the monastery, Kathleen, you're in a complete dark cave. So you're meditating in a cave in the sky, literally. So the darkness is very, very important for the pineal structure of our system. That's what I mean. They were so enlightened and so wise
Mhm.
about how everything connects up from
And this is all
us.
cave within the brain,
Exactly.
right?
The cave, exactly. Exactly. Perfect. So
Mhm.
I mean, the more I understand, the more it makes me understand, really, truly realize that our bodies are the living temple, the living temple and the living template. And that's
Mm,
really why, Kathleen, I was so interested in not just medicine, but the complex system of the human.
mm.
And truly how amazing the technology that we have, that we are actually the technology,
Exactly. Our
you know.
biology, our biomagnetic field, everything is the technology. Exactly. And the beauty of Ayurveda is it's like, if you're talking template, each person has a slightly different template based on their elemental creation. And it's
Absolutely.
beautiful, right? It's like, well, this person might eat a little more this way, and yes, the idea is that we're building the energy that helps our immune, that happens to be the system that helps our immune system, and the calm, which, when you're talking about being in the cave at high elevation looking out, that's actually what the word vipassana means. It's been, again, kind of misapplied in nowadays. When people say, oh, I'm going to vipassana, they think it's like that particular kind of meditation retreat. The word vipassana in Tibetan Buddhism, when it's translated, is actually calm abiding. And evidently, calm abiding is meditating in a cave at high elevation with a view way off into the distance so that you can sit in the darkness. And then when you open your eyes, you're looking through a doorway and you see way off the horizon. It's literally a specific setting that is said to be used to create calm abiding. It's like one of a series of practices.
Same
So I
with the
love that you brought
Native,
this up.
same thing with the Native American kivas. Exactly the same.
Yes. Good point, right? Because you're in the Kiva, right? Yes.
Same
Same.
technology, different location, same technology.
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
This is fantastic, and I hope that we will continue our discussions next time, and that it's for me a great joy to be here chatting with you. And
So
also,
wonderful.
I think it's also part of the service of sharing what we have for
Mhm.
others to maybe appreciate or understand and share with others and enjoy. So thank you,
Just
Kathleen.
amazing. Oh, of course. You're just amazing. Thank you. I love how you describe going from Shiva all the way into Navaratri. Oh, so beautiful. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.